What is the difference between American racism or racism in the United States versus racism in Latin America? That's an interesting question. I think that I have discovered a little bit more about the differences and the different points of view. And there are two different points of view, basically. And why am I bringing this up today? Hello, I'm Edgar Montoya. This is my channel, The Language Cafe. In case you haven't noticed, watched my last two videos, I did two videos touching on the subject. It was basically in response to an article by the Washington Post that came out last month during the World Cup that was entitled, "Why Doesn't Argentina Have More Black Players in the World Cup?" I think what they were really implying, the title, what they would have made the title, surprising that they didn't make it so, was, why doesn't Argentina have any black players in the World Cup? And there's two points of view, really, and I've discovered that a lot first of all, I want to thank everybody who responded in my two videos, especially the next to last one that I did. I got a ton of comments, a ton of likes, way more views than I've ever gotten in a video, and I want to thank you. But also I did receive some negative feedback. I received some outright insults, and I want to address that today. I addressed that basically, I did in the comments section in that video, but I wanted to address it more vocally today and to touch on some things that I didn't touch on. But I'm going to address today my view. I'm not an expert on the subject. I'm not a sociologist. I was never majored in Latin American studies, but I wanted to touch it. It's from my observation, and also as the son of an Argentine mother and a Peruvian father. By the way, I'm very proud, son of an Argentine mother, as my mother's country added that third star on their jersey last month. Argentina, tricampeón del mundo. Yes, Argentina, three-time champion of the world. Okay, for example, somebody asked in response to my talking about why no black players, or on Argentina, for bringing up the subject, which I don't agree with the author on certain points, the author of that Washington Post article, but somebody wrote to me, why are there no white players on South Korea? Another person, why are there no white players in Cameroon? Well, the answer to that's pretty obvious, I think. I think those two countries are homogeneous countries. If you don't know what homogeneous means, it means basically of one type, of one kind. It is, in this case, talking about nationality, is of one race of people, one group of people. United States, as is Argentina, I was going to say también, too, in Spanish. Okay, I also teach Spanish. Is a heterogeneous country. Okay, heterogeneous means it's more diverse. There's a mixture of people. Okay, and no one like the United States. But Argentina in the 1800s and early 1900s did receive, and still is now, received people from across Europe, and to some degree some Africans too, many Asians. I've noticed from the last times I was in Argentina, of Asian or Koreans or Japanese, Chinese, now living in Argentina. But that's why it's a pretty basic answer. Excuse me, coffee break. Homogeneous versus heterogeneous. It doesn't make some sense. It would not make sense for Cameroon to have any white players, for South Korea to have any white players or any really Latino players. Another person insults, one person called me a pavote, which is another form of pavo, which means turkey. Okay, that's because she didn't like what I said, because I brought up the subject. And I want to get to that, why some people in Latin Americans don't like the subject being brought up. Another person said, muy pobre lo tuyo. He didn't like my take on it, or just that I brought it up. But look, like I said, I'm not an expert on this. I didn't study sociology. I didn't study Latin American affairs. But I do have an interest in it. Another person wrote me, why? Well, so what? Argentina doesn't have black players. No blacks in Argentina. He goes, so what? Well, so what? One can have an intellectual curiosity. In this world, we can all be interested in so many billions, unlimited number of things. And you can bring up the subject. And as a point of interest has been for me for years, precisely because I am the son of a mother from Argentina and a father from Peru. My father's country of Peru, incidentally, does have a percentage of blacks their national soccer team, which didn't qualify for this last World Cup, they have some black players. They have blacks. Argentina, a coincidence, as a piece of trivia, I heard the last time they had a player on their national team was in 1925 when they won the Copa America. I forgot the name. It was De Los Santos, something like that. Anyways, okay, but it's good to have interest, and not just to say so what and what about, what does it matter? It's we are interested in what we're interested, and there's room for discussion, just for talk. It's not to fight. I don't come on here with this subject to foment any trouble, any problems with anyone. It's just it's good to, and again, I thank those who commented and shared ideas and knowledge and experience. Some people who've experienced racism in Latin America and said it is there. They do exist. And they talked about experiences they had as well in Brazil and some other countries. But okay, now I want to talk about when one talks about blacks. When you say blacks in North America, in the United States, it means exactly that. It means Africans. I think in my second video I did mention briefly. It's like blacks, like you're talking about Mbappe. The people I gave as examples were Mbappe, LeBron James. I think I said Michael Jordan too. I says black people of African descent. Okay, but I think when I mentioned racism or blacks in Argentina or in Latin America, many people came out of the woodwork. More positive than negative feedback I got, but the negative ones, got very defensive, which I said that the issue was polemic. Somebody wrote me back, no, it's not polemic. I think it is in Latin America. I think it's an issue that people don't want to really touch on. I think it's a scab that you don't pick at. Once again, I don't do this to foment trouble, to create uproar with anyone. I am just having intellectual curiosity about this, because I do know that in my mother's country of Argentina, the country does have a history of black Argentines through slavery or otherwise through the 1800s into the 1900s. Slavery ended in Argentina in 1813. Somebody wrote that it didn't exist there ever. It did for a while. But it was outlawed before Argentina even won its independence in 1816. But I covered that kind of in the first video, as well as the second one, I think. But in Latin America, when you say blacks, I think they tend to think, indios, or indigenous peoples, mestizos, mulattos, minorities. And then they get defensive, we're not racist, we're many of us, so we get along. Well, yes, but some countries like Argentina, that's a major issue, but you just got to say it. There aren't that many blacks, or very few. Or when I was in Argentina, I did see some blacks, but they were clearly African blacks, freshly from Africa, arrived in the nation. But as I said, they do have a history there, but they did, for different reasons, die out. It may come back in years to come. Demographics of a nation, a heterogeneous nation, may change from time to time. I want to talk about the word negro, or negro. I didn't say the N word. I didn't say N-I-G-G-E-R. The word negro or negro used to be commonly used in the United States before 1970, let's say, in reference to the black American, person of African descent. Then it was not used so much anymore. But negro in Latin America is used. Here's one difference between the two, North America and South America. It can be used in a friendly term, but here in the United States, you can't really use it anymore in a friendly term. You can use it in a historical term, but it's not, in Latin America, somebody say, oh, la negro, and you're not even black. It could be white or of any other race. It is used disparagingly too. And in my mother's country of Argentina, incidentally, it's used sometimes to, one lady was asked when her husband, she was 9 months pregnant, her husband was murdered, almost in front of her. The reporter asked her, who killed your husband? And she said to him in Spanish, uno de esos negros del barrio, one of those blacks from the barrio. Well, did she mean a black person? She did not mean a black person. She meant a bum, a delinquent, some punk. So the question begs, it begs the question, why is the word negro used disparagingly there to talk about some person of bad ilk, a person of bad repute, a punk, a criminal? It reminds me too of another incident. I watched a show, a comedy show on TV from Peru, and they were making fun of some of the players on their soccer team, of Peru's national soccer team, including some of the blacks, such as Jefferson Farfan, who's now retired from the team. And these were white actors. These were, indigenous Peruvian actors in blackface, and with certain prosthetics to make them afro wigs to make them look black. Another thing you cannot do in this country. I had a girlfriend in Colombia years ago, and one time I talked to her about the subject. I brought it up, and she said to me, "Oh, los pobres negros, so the poor blacks in this country." Why did she say that? Because there is an issue there of racism, or inequalities exist among minorities, both in Latin America as in the U.S. They do exist. And there is discrimination. There is, if not segregation, there is some kind of degree of racism. Now, the thing about the United States, I think in this country, is more volatile issue of the history we've been through. There have been people who've been trying to revive the issue, and as I said earlier, to dig at the scab, to make it more polemic, more polemic than it is. And one gets the idea from what I've noticed in Latin America, it's not a hot issue there. I think it lies there under the surface. And there is racism. There are racist terms that are used toward indigenous peoples as well, toward Asians. Sometimes if you're Asian, no matter where you're from in Asia, they will commonly call you, and not just disparagingly always, could be in a friendly way, you're called El Chino. Right? If a Japanese person has a vegetable stand or somewhere, some business, some boy may say to his mother, "Oh, Mama, me voy al Chino." That person's not Chino, they're Japanese, they're not Chinese. But it's how you use the words. Okay. And to think, yeah, again, I want to say it's fine. People say there's almost an attitude toward me like, mind your open business. First of all, I'm a Latino. Second of all, this is not an isolationist world that we live in anymore. We can think beyond the borders. It's a big world, especially in this internet age, that we can be interested in so many things. We can talk to people and say, it's a problem. Racism is a problem here, or such and such a thing. XYZ is a problem here. How is it over there? How do you handle it over there? How is it dealt with? I'm not a leftist. I'm not Black Lives Matter. Somebody accused me of that too. I have no interest in that. It disgusts me, actually, BLM. Truth be told, if you want to know about me, I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican. A person who, you don't have to be a liberal, you don't have to be on the left to be somewhat or to some degree interested in the subject of race. That's all I wanted to say a little bit. It is interesting. I thank you for your comments. I hope to hear more from you. And thank you. Hope you like your comments and ideas for future videos, and to cover other topics. I even cover cuisine and all kinds of. I'm open to ideas for this channel and for my other channel too, American Update, which is more about history and politics. Thanks again. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now. Thank you.